Hey, I want to talk a little bit about the marketing stack and why I think it's important. So, the marketing stack is actually something that I came up a couple of years ago. I was looking for a name for my podcast, and I had this concept of, how in the digital marketing space or in the online business space, we have to stack products or services to fulfill on the thing that we want to deliver. After using a lot of different tools, there's a company called Buffer who actually has this really funky logo. It looks like two layers on top of each other. And if you're familiar with like Photoshop and whatever, like when you think of layers, it's like things like stacking on top of each other, like literally, like books sitting on top of each other. In the marketing space, we have to stack the apps as well, because let's say, for example, you've got your website. Maybe you've got your website on Webflow, or maybe you're using WordPress or using some other type of a tool to host your website, maybe a Squarespace site. Then that's pretty much what you have. But then you have, maybe you want to build out an email list, because email is important for marketing and for communicating with an audience. You have maybe a ConvertKit, or you have an ActiveCampaign. But then you need to sell a product. From a sales point of view, if you've got physical products, then maybe a Shopify store. You put up e-commerce on your website, and of course you can do an e-commerce store on Webflow. If you're building a course, then definitely go with one of the course membership platforms like a Thinkific or a Kajabi or a Teachable, and that's going to form sort of your membership portal, which is basically going to lock your content, lock your videos, so that people can't download it not for free. They have to make payment, go through some sort of a payment gateway, and then you give them login access to the portal, which like I said, will be hosted on one of these tools. Let's say you need to now connect your website because you've got maybe a lead magnet that you want to create, right? So let's say you've got your website and you've got your lead magnet, but now it's like, how do you deliver that lead magnet? That landing pages are a thing, and so maybe you add on something like ClickFunnels and you build out a landing page specifically for that product. Now, there's no reason why you wouldn't want to build that landing page on your website, or you build your landing page on Squarespace or any of those. But let's say you didn't have a website and you wanted to test an offer or a lead magnet or something. You would connect the landing page up to the form that you would have on your email list. So let's say somebody buys your course, and let's say your course membership you're using is Thinkific, and now you're trying to get that member, that client, that customer into your ActiveCampaign, because now you want to be able to communicate them in a way that makes sense, because you want to have hub, you want to have ActiveCampaign, for example, being your hub of your emails. Then you need some sort of an integration, because there is no direct way to do that. And so then you would use something like Zapier. Connecting up all of these things then becomes this sort of spaghetti Western movie where it's like, wait, hold on. You've got all of these tools, all of these different services that are fulfilling them different things. How do you actually figure out what you're going to do with all of them? And two is like, how do you track and manage not only the expenses from all of them, but how do you make sure that you're communicating to people in those different apps in a different way? Let's add in a totally different complexity. Maybe you have a Facebook group where you actually have your community for your paid course. You could have maybe something like Circle or Mighty Networks, where people would be inside of your community. Somebody make payment on, let's say, ClickFunnels, because you've built a funnel and people are making payment on ClickFunnels. Then you're trying to get that lead or that customer into your ActiveCampaign. You also need to give them access to your Thinkific, and you need to add them into maybe Circle. And then it's like, wait, logistically, how do you do all of those things, right? You use Zapier for some of it has direct integrations, fine. Maybe you have like a CRM system because you've got like direct sales. Maybe you have people booking calls, and so going through that process, it's like, okay, how do you track this customer relationship? So maybe use something like Pipedrive or HubSpot or Dubsado, or maybe use CRM functionality inside of ActiveCampaign. Maybe you've got people booking calls with you through maybe a Calendly or an ActiveCampaign. Maybe you've got people booking a call with you through Calendly or something like Acuity, or maybe Pipedrive's integrated scheduler or HubSpot's integrated scheduler, right? So it's like all of these different tools that function outside of what you would normally think you just need a website for your business online. But the truth of the matter is that you have to stack all of these things up and pay separately for each of these services, because right now there isn't one service that exists to provide all of those resources or to provide all of that functionality. And the question often comes to me of like, well, why do we need so many tools? Why isn't there one app to rule them all? Why isn't there one system that does everything for us? And from a functionality point of view, yes, it might be cool to have one system to do it all, but the truth of the matter is that each of these companies, in order to integrate all of these different services, it would be thousands and thousands of hours of development to be able to create that system. And then it's like, well, having all the integrations and having all the systems go into each other, Zoho is probably the only company, maybe HubSpot as well, are the only two companies that I can think of that could do all of it. There isn't really a company that has become like the category king where it's like one app to rule everything. And so while we might get there at some point, we have to stack all of these things to be able to get our marketing functionality done, to be able to get our sales functionality done, to be able to integrate advertising into our campaigns. So that's how I basically came up with the marketing stack, where it's like we have to layer all of these things up depending on what we're trying to deliver on. And so I wanted to do this video as a background, or as a sort of a foundation for not only for the podcast but also for this YouTube channel. Because if you didn't know, I have a podcast. It's called The Marketing Stack Podcast. It's everywhere. It's on Apple iTunes, and it's on all of the services. And I've actually got a YouTube channel also called the Marketing Stack Podcast, where I'm experimenting putting up the YouTube videos or the podcast interviews on that channel. I have uploaded some of the interviews to this channel as well as a test. I haven't quite decided where those episodes are gonna reside, because it's kind of like managing two YouTube channels is a challenge on its own, and with all of these other tools that I'm using, it's very difficult to keep track. If you're in some sort of a conflict, or if you're in some sort of a sticking point of oh my goodness, like there's so many different tools, what should you start with? One, I mean, from a functionality point of view, depending on what type of service you're trying to sell, if you're just doing affiliate marketing, you don't need a website, you don't need any of these things. If you're putting out content, you can link directly to the affiliate links, right? But if you have an offer, if you have a service, then I would say, a website is necessary, even if it's just a one-page website, so people can actually find your business and actually can reference the stuff that you're doing, maybe as short services or a bio or at least a portfolio at minimum. And then there's this thing of like allowing people to book calls with you, so that they can actually get in touch and you can interview them, or they can interview you and you can interact with them, right? So that direct connection is important. So using something like a Calendly or an Acuity is necessary. I wouldn't necessarily recommend a course platform for a WordPress site. It might be cheaper in the long run, but from a maintenance and a functionality point of view, it's a lot more intense, and you need developers and you need skills. Whereas with Teachable or Thinkific or Kajabi or any of these tools, it's kind of low risk, where you don't really have to maintain anything. You pay the monthly fee, they take care of everything on the back end, and all you've got to do is make sure your content is uploaded and the design is set. Once the design is set, you're pretty much set to go. And I'll have actually a video coming out very, very soon talking about course platforms, making comparisons and doing all of these things. So with that being said, I just wanted to talk about the marketing stack. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe, hit the like as well. And if you wanted to ask any questions about what combinations of apps or tools fit together, or how would you go about finding a way to connect everything together and figure out your stack, your flow, then definitely hit me up with a comment below. And yeah, I wish you well on your marketing journey, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye for now.